Hello, all you lovely people. Welcome back to 22 Elevate. My name is Tip. I will be your host for this show. Today, we're going to talk about focus and path of least resistance. Ready? Here we go. So, focusing. You ever heard like focus, focus, focus? We have been told all our lives to focus on a task, focus on this, focus on that. And sometimes our mind just goes squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. And we just stop focusing on what we're supposed to actually be focusing on. And we just go la, 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 la to somewhere else. Did you know that focusing is actually a muscle that you need to work at? I know. I know. It's so weird to think of focusing as a muscle, but that's how it kind of works. For example, like if I were to ask you right now, just sit there and focus on your breath for 30 seconds. Could you do it? Could you do that without your mind wandering in a few different places? Could you do that and just sit there and focus on your breath without going, oh, it's a little bright in here. Oh, I could hear the rain outside. Oh, I forgot to do that. Could you do that? 30 seconds. Could you do that for 10 seconds? Could you do that for a minute? Could you do that for 30 minutes? And that is the question of the day because honestly, some people can't even do that for 10 seconds. And look, that's nothing really to be ashamed of. It's just a reality. And once you know that that is you, you have something to work on. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, really. Like, there are very few people that take time throughout their day just to maybe even just sit and breathe and count to 10. Or maybe just take 10 deep breaths throughout their day consciously, not subconsciously. We're not just going breathing without knowing, right? You're actually consciously going 1, 2. Okay. There's not a lot of people that do that. So it's not a strange concept that it's hard to focus for a certain amount of time. Takes that practice. Now, there are tools to help you learn how to do stuff like that. And sometimes what we do is we ignore those tools. Let me give you an example. So if you and me were sitting there, we're like, dang, it's hot. It's like 95 degrees outside. I am hot. And you know what would be awesome? If we had a swimming pool. And you're like, yes, yes, swimming pool would be amazing. And I say, great, let's do it. Let's have a swimming pool. And you are sold 100% on the idea that we're going to do a swimming pool. And I say, okay, we're going to do this in 2 days. You down? You're like, yeah, let's do this. 2 days, swimming pool. I said, okay, well, we have 2 options here. We could rent a backhoe. You know what a backhoe is? It's one of those big construction machines with the arm things that dig the dirt and it goes and throws the dirt on the other side, right? We could use a backhoe or we could use spoons because I got spoons. And you're like, I see what you're saying. And you know what? I don't know. I don't know. Let me think about it. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Let me think about it. And I'm like, okay, well, what is there to think about? Like, is it the cost of the backhoe? Because you don't have to worry about that. Like, I got the cost. Don't worry about it. And you're like, no, it's not the cost. I know a friend, like, it's not a big deal. Like, we can get the backhoe, no problem. I'm like, okay, well, are you having second thoughts to the pool? And you're like, no, I'm 100% in. And I'm like, okay, what is there to think about? And you're like, well, I don't know if it's a better idea to use the backhoe or if we should just use spoons. And I'm like, okay, well, it's 95 degrees outside. You really want to use spoons? And you're like, I know that it seems obvious to you, but I really need to think about this. Like, this is a really hard decision, and I'm having such a hard time with it. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with this decision. It can't just be me. Like, it is a hard decision. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. I'm backing off. You think about it and you make your decision. Maybe you come back and you're like, okay, I made my decision. I know a lot of people struggle with decisions like this. And my decision is I'm going to use spoons. And I smack you on the head. Because I'm like, why would you use a spoon? You're not using the right tool. Like, there's a tool in front of you that could get this done in a day. It doesn't have to be 2 days. It'll be in a day. If we use spoons, it's hot outside and it's disgusting and it's going to take us forever. It's going to take us way longer than 2 days. Like, are you kidding me? What are we going to get a sand bucket and just like fill the spoons and dump it in the sand bucket and do one bucket at a time? Like, come on. You got to go with the path of least resistance. What's the path of least resistance? Path of least resistance is the way you go. That is the easiest route possible, the smoothest, easiest route possible. Is that spoon path of least resistance? Heck no, it isn't. It is definitely not least resistant. I am resistant to it. The path of least resistance in that case would be the backhoe. Get the backhoe. Why do we do it to ourselves? Why do we decide, let's go for the spoon? I mean, that could even be, going back to focus. It's so hard for me to focus. And I know that other people struggle with it too. And there's a clear tool, clear path that I can use to help me with my focus. But you know what? I'm not going to use it right now. I know that the backhoe can do this job better than the spoon, but I don't want that right now. I know that I can use this tool to improve my life, but I don't want that right now. I don't want that right now. Why do we do this? Because we like to suffer. Because someone has told us somewhere in our life that suffering is a part of human nature, a part of the human experience. And to some extent, that is true. It's not that we're meant to suffer. It's that we're meant to go through some hard times so that we can learn life lessons, so that we can improve our lives, improve our mental states, and improve ourselves overall. But we get stuck. We get stuck in that suffering. We get stuck in those mental states, and we choose not to get out of it because we think we need to suffer. I will give you a very real example of that. My dad had always told me I didn't suffer enough. He always said when he was younger, he only had one toy to play with. He only had this much amount of money. And so back in the day when my ex-husband and I used to go to the movies and we were, those broke college students, he was like, well, you're not suffering enough because if you're suffering, then you wouldn't be spending your money on going to the movies. Where I was like, I need the movies to help my mental capacity right now because I am about to explode if I don't go to the movies or do something fun. But in his mind, it was me not suffering enough. And so I grew up with that mentality of I have to suffer. I have to suffer in order for me to achieve something. I have to suffer in order for it to mean anything. And at one point, I went, why? Why do I need to suffer? I can learn lessons. I can go through all my life lessons, go through hard times, and choose not to suffer. I know that sounds so weird because when you're going through a hard time in society, we are told that when we're going through a hard time, we're not supposed to be happy about it. We're not supposed to be okay with it. We're not supposed to deal with it in a positive manner. In fact, that was me. I dealt with some of my stuff in a positive manner, and I did not uh, get very good responses from it. They would tell me that I was in denial about it, or I wasn't taken serious, or I wasn't taking it serious enough. These are very real experiences that I have had um, in the court system, actually, that they told me I wasn't taking it seriously enough because I was still having a positive mindset. And that's a shame. That is a total shame because someone can be going through the mud and still be looking at it in a very real and positive way. Again, will positivity fix the world? Will it rid the world of its problems? No, we'll still have our problems. But you know what? It is easier to live with a positive mindset in this world than to live with a negative one. And I say that all the time. If you've listened to any of my other shows, I say that all the time because it's true. So, what's the tool in your life that you need to be using that you're not using? Like if you have a problem with focus, I just gave you some really real tools that you can use for focus. You can concentrate for that 30 seconds, just breathing. And once you do that 30 seconds, you move on to a minute. But you don't start with 30 minutes. You don't go, all right, I'm going to focus on just my breath. I'm just going to focus for 30 minutes. It's not how it works. You will fail in that 30 minutes. And then you'll be like, oh, I just have trouble focusing. Well, yeah, of course you're going to have trouble focusing if you're going to jump from lifting 0 pounds of weight to 200 pounds. Yes, your muscles will die. You'll be like, I can't do this. You probably can't get it off the floor because you haven't practiced it. Same thing. Struggling is still the same thing. Suffering is still the same thing. You actually have to practice not to suffer anymore, not to struggle anymore. And it's a struggle in itself because we are wired now to do that because we have practiced that over and over and over in our heads. Do you know how much I practiced struggling and suffering because my dad said I wasn't suffering enough? It took me a really long time to get out of that. And it was only because I realized that suffering is not part of our human experience. I know that sounds so weird that we shouldn't be suffering. But I think you need to redefine your definition of suffering. What does suffering actually mean to you? And why are you choosing to suffer? Why did you decide to suffer? Was that something that you decided? Or was that something that society said? Was that something that someone else that you know has said? Because look, you look at babies and you're like, they're not just gonna not drink milk and be like, that's because I'm gonna suffer. I am going to struggle. No, they don't do that. So why are you doing it? That's a learned behavior. So let's go to our second part of our segment, which is energy releasing. So let's release this suffering, right? Let's get on that path to least resistance. So if you haven't done this with me before, my energy releasing is through our hands because reflexology is where your nerves are attached to different parts of your body, and by massaging those nerves, it hits different parts of your body. So you're essentially releasing those energies from different parts of your body. This is similar to tapping. I don't like tapping because I feel like I look like a monkey because at some point you tap under your armpit and you tap on the top of your head. And that is just not suitable for everyday use to me. Like if I'm walking in a supermarket, I don't want to be tapping on the back of my head. I want to just be doing it very subtly. So I do with hands. So what you do is you massage your hands while I say positive affirmations. And the way I like to massage the hands is through the palms first and then go up through the fingers. And then I actually go down to my wrist to where my watch begins on both sides. So I'm going to have you close your eyes and start massaging your hands and just listen to my voice. Today, I decide that I am done with suffering. Suffering is not for me. I don't need to be struggling through life. I know that we have been told that we need to work hard and we need to be badasses. And because of that, I equate that to suffering. I have to do everything hard, the hard way. So instead of doing that, instead of choosing the spoon to dig out my swimming pool, I'm going to choose the backhoe because I am worthy and I respect myself. And because of that, I no longer need to suffer. I can choose the path of least resistance. I can choose to be at peace with where I am. I can choose to let go of that energy that stops me from taking the path of least resistance. I can choose to put my focus elsewhere. I can choose to put my focus on peace because peace is where suffering is not. All is well in my world. I am peaceful, calm, and centered. I love and approve of myself. Okay, you can open your eyes. How was that? Was that awesome? Was that lovely? Do you feel that energy release? If anything, do your hands feel better? All right, so I want to talk to you about, actually, I want to tell you a story about Disneyland. So it has been raining. Today it is rainy. And last week there was this storm in California. And the storm was like, it had flash flood warnings and it just was icky. And it was for quite a few days. And me and my friends decided that we were going to go to Disneyland because it was her first time and she was going to take her kids and we couldn't change the dates. And so we're like, yeah, let's just go anyways. We get there and it is such a rainy mess. Like I was going to go meet her on the other side of the parking structure and I was just like, heck no, we're going to meet in the middle. We're going to meet in security because if I had to run across the parking lot in that rain, heck no, we would have been drenched. So I had a poncho on. Tyra had a poncho, like I wrapped it around her legs because she's in like the stroller and she doesn't walk. So she's not vertical. So she's horizontal. So I wrapped her legs around it so her legs wouldn't get wet. And we met up in the by the security where the trams are. And we're kind of looking at each other like, oh shit, like, are we gonna make it? But we kind of didn't want to say it to each other. And we get into the park, and by then the rain actually slowed down. And it was so great because we were like, okay, we could do this now. We can make it. And we did. It was so fun because it was like it would rain pretty hard for like 20 minutes, but then it would pretty much stop for like an hour or two, and then it would rain really hard again for 20 minutes, and then it would be light rain, and then it would stop. And it was like on and off like that until like 3 or 4 p.m. And then after that, it just stopped raining. So we had like such a good day. It was so fun. The kids loved it. Like they didn't really get wet either. Like actually, the ponchos really covered. Some leg stuff were wet. Like I know, like I was wearing rain boots, but somehow water got in there. That leakage. Anyways, yesterday Kyra and I went and it was rainy again. So I was like, you know what? We made it through the storm. We were barely wet. Let's go again. And so me and her went, and dang, it was not like the storm day. The storm day, like I'm telling you, like the only things that were wet afterwards were my socks. And I didn't even realize they were wet. They just kind of felt like sweaty feet. And I don't usually get sweaty feet, so I should have known. But it just felt a little bit like sweaty feet. Like I couldn't really tell the difference. But yesterday, it was like my arms were soaked and my legs were like, my pants were wet. Even Kyra got like a little wet, and she's in the stroller and she's like covered up. So it was just rainy all day continuously. It wasn't hard rain. It wasn't like sprinkly either though. It was that medium, we'll call it medium rain. And it just got us. So after like 3 hours, I was like, I'm over it. I want to go in the car in the heater. I'm done. And I asked Kyra if she wants to go home, and she's like, home. So we left, and we went to the camera store actually. I was gonna say we went home, but we didn't. I went to buy a toy. Here, actually, I'll show you my toy. It's not hooked up yet because I'm waiting for wires, so it'll be hooked up. Look, this is the A10 mini switcher, and what it's gonna do is I'm gonna be able to press like camera 1 or camera 2, and then do like picture in picture and stuff like that for all you lovely people while I'm on my live. So it's gonna be really cool. And then I actually got a camera last week. Here, I'll show it to you, because I don't like recording with this one. So this is my brand new camera. It's a Black Magic, and it's amazing, you guys. It's super amazing. So this will be used with my new switcher because they're going to be awesome together. And we're going to have so much more fun, because then I can actually like show you pictures that pop up. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So anyways, that's probably the end of my story. Oh, and Haunted Mansion had their Haunted Mansion's closed right now, but they had these pictures outside where it's those ones where you walk and it turns into a different picture. I love those. It blows my mind how people can create something like that. I don't know how they do that. It's like magic. It's like magic. Embrace the magic. It's like magic, you know? And they still have their Lunar New Year stuff. It's the year of the dragon this year, you guys. I don't know if you know that, but I love dragons. Like, I was so stoked that it was year of the dragon this year, because do you know how much more dragon gear I can get this year? Because it's year of the dragon. Like all this dragon stuff came out, and I was like, I'm getting that, and I'm getting that. Like Target had like a dragon sweater, and I'm like, I'm getting that. And then Pandora had like the dragon necklace, and I'm like, I'm getting that. I mean, I got like so much dragon stuff. I even got a Tory Burch dragon purse, because I was like, dang, dragons. I've always liked dragons for some reason. Like since I was little, I was like, I love dragons. I've just been attracted to dragons. Um, if you can see my decor hand, I'm gonna put it up a little so you can see it. Because there's my dragons. So on the top there, so right there, there's a dragon. Right there, there's a dragon. I think that might be the only dragons up there. But I used to stand up while I record. So that's why my decor is up there, because when you stand up, you can see all the things. But now I sit down and now you can't see the things, but you can see my tiger back there. Yeah, no, this way. The picture of the real tiger taken by the amazing photographer Lauren Danos. And it was a gift to me. So anyways, dragons. I'm actually born in the year of the dragon, so I thought that's why I was so attracted to dragons. But turns out they're just my spirit animal, you know? Sometimes you just have dragon spirit animals. All right, guys. That is all I have for you today. I'm gonna stop ranting at this point, and I hope you like it and follow and subscribe and do all the things and comment, because that way I start being able to do more things for you guys, like get guests on the show and stuff like that, because we need our numbers up to get all the cool gifts over here. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.